Alright guys, well welcome to 5R110 part 2, the reassembly. I got all the bushings. I got a bushing kit. I already changed them. I mean here's the old bushings. Just to kind of speed it up, so we're just going to reassemble, transfer the parts from the Transgo parts from that pump to the new pump. And I did get a paper rubber rings and seals. It's just an overhaul kit. There's not much in here, but the new pump already has a seal. The guy that rebuilt it, before, he replaced the rear seal as well. So we're not going to mess with those seals. So we're going to have those seals extra. And you see here we have the solenoid body gasket. I was concerned about this gasket. I didn't just want to get it by itself. And then we have the channel plate gasket, and we have the pump gasket as well in here. In this overhaul kit. I'm gonna put this to the side, and I already the pieces that took the bushings. This one took a new bushing, and you got to get a bushing cutter to cut them. You cut them so you can get them off. So that took a new bushing. This took a new bushing as well. Let's see what else. The sunshell. As you saw, that the sunshell bushings, they didn't look too bad, but I put them anyways. Get the bushing kit and install all the bushings on there. I'm gonna have left over the stator bushings front and rear because the new one already has it. I'm gonna have left over the pump bushing because the new reman pump already has the pump bushing. And this is a critical bushing that you need to install on all your 5R110s, that little forward drum bushing. And this one, I didn't have to cut it all the way. I just hit it a little bit with my bushing cutter, and it went sideways and came just right off. This center support here, it takes 3 bushings. It takes one right here, one in the center, and it takes one back here. It takes 3 bushings. On this piece right here, I took the intermediate piston off just to, it looks new. You can see on the color of the piston, kind of like a greenish, goldish kind of color. And they all look the same. So I took it off, and I just wanted to make sure, that they were, in fact, new pistons, and they are new pistons. So on the forward and direct drum, I did not take the pistons out. I'm going to have left over the 2 bushings. They go on this drum. These are the 2 bushings. They go on this drum. One goes here, and the other one goes a little bit further down. And there's a problem with fitment with this bushing sometimes. The drum will still kind of rock back and forth, but that's the way they came from factory. You can see. You can see all that wiggle, but these are the new bushings. If the updated bushing is not available, at least install these bushings on there, because there is an issue here with this drum, with that bushing. So that's something common. So we got the stator bushing rear is the one that has the notch cut out, and then the lubrication hole, it makes like a little loop, if you see that. And the stator bushing front just has 2 grooves that just go across it, lubrication grooves. I've seen it before on a unit, and I left it like that. Somebody had built a unit and actually installed one of these bushings here. I guess it could work. I guess it wouldn't hurt that much, but I believe that the reason they removed this bushing is to get more lubrication into the overdrive planet assembly in here, since you have a bushing over here that's kind of like blocking it already, sort of say. But it still has 2 grooves on it that, I would think, I left it like that, I already took it off. I would think that it might not affect at all. And I didn't get that unit back, I just shipped it like that, and everything was fine. Okay, so now we're gonna start reassembly all the pieces. We get all of our bearings. Let's see, we got our forward planetary gear, and we just start pasting the bearings on their with their parts, on their respective parts, that actually feels real good. That bushing, I mean, it's nice and centered, nice and tight. All right, so we get our coast clutch drum frictions in here. This is the forward. Where's it at? Where you at? Where you at? Right here. Install our frictions. And remember, this has the mechanical diode. The pressure plate itself, it's a mechanical diode. So it still goes in. It doesn't go in as easy as a 5R110, but it still goes in a little easy. Kind of like align your frictions a little bit. All right, not that well, but let's go ahead and install our bearings here. Am I in the view? Yeah. Can you see what I'm doing? Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. I think you can. All right. Yeah. I have the screen facing me this way. There we go. You felt it right away that he bottomed out. Oh, and it takes another bushing right here. Yeah, this one. Where's the old one at? It was a little bit. It got stuck a little bit, you know. Then, but it still came out. And as always, I already checked it. I already checked my bushing against my pump stator, and always check your bushings for fitment. If they don't seem like they fit correctly, just kind of like, you know, do some adjustments to it. I guess I'm gonna go ahead and open my paper O-rings and seals, because I'm gonna install the new sealing rings in it. So I'm gonna open the little baggie that has my sealing rings here. So we're gonna install sealing rings on our forward clutch drum for intermediate, not for intermediate, for direct, that seals that drum. I mean, I have no doubt those are new sealing rings. I mean, the pistons are new, and I'm assuming the sealing rings are new as well. But since I got the overhaul kit, I mean, might as well just put them on. I mean, we could have just reassembled this unit, but let's just do it. Let's just do it right. Now, remember, this is a three day old unit, so it really doesn't need much. All the frictions are new, the pistons are new. Put a little bit of assembly lube. I'm gonna go ahead and lubricate my bushing here, and you can actually fit it on the output shaft, and it fits well. It fits real good. Okay, let's get our forward frictions. Am I missing my direct frictions? Oh, there they are, right there. Okay, so I already have the sealing rings on the forward clutch drum. I have the kit here so you can have, you know, I want everything in view of the camera. You know, I usually have it back over there. So this will be part 2, and I have the APC solenoid on order, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna just stop the video here, and once I get my APC solenoid continue, or maybe I'll just do a part 3 on the solenoid body, and we'll talk about that. So we're gonna go all the way to the pump today, and we'll stop the video there. And part 3 would be the solenoid body itself. There is a difference between the 03 and 04 models between the 05 and up on those units. The Forward clutches are different. There's a lot of differences in between the 05 and up and the 03s and 04s. Okay, so we got, I need a bearing for the rear over here. Basically, I use the green assembly lube just to paste all my bearings and washers. All right. Now we already have one in there. This other bearing goes here inside the planet. Lubricate our sunshell. Sunshell bushings. And we have to go past the forward drum and into the direct drum. All right, so this is already ready to put inside the barrel of the case. The way I do that, I just get a clothes hanger. I know there's a tool for that. I have the tool for a 4R100. It didn't fit right on that one, but on the 4R100, I bend it. I don't even use that tool anymore. I mean, I just do it my way, you know. Sometimes special tools are good, but sometimes you really don't need them. All right. I guess we can do some air checking here right quick. I'm gonna get this out of the way. It's just in the way. Let's get our 2 sealing rings for here, for our direct. Okay, let's see. All right. Lubricate our new bushings. The forward drum uses 2 of the bushings, and then this right here rides right here on this bushing on this side. But our forward drum uses the center bushing and the outer bushing, and it has to be centered, you know, for the sealing rings to work correctly. Let's go ahead and flip this over. This assembly becomes a little heavy once it is assembled. So, okay, let's see. Carefully lower it down. Check our sealing rings. Okay. I'm going to lube up the bushing a little bit. I checked my bushings for fitment on the forward drum, but if you remember that it did not want it to come out easily from the direct drum, so that's probably where our problem is at. So I'm gonna take it off and fit it by itself first. Okay, it's our sealing rings. Just lube it up a little bit. You gotta be careful not to break them. Feels like it stops, but it's only going past by 1 sealing ring. For some reason, either the sealing ring is maybe there's a problem with the sealing ring, which is this one. I'm gonna put this one in the bottom. they interlock. So make sure that they are correctly interlocked. There we go. Faster than quickly. All right. There's our forward drum. Let's get our blowgun. So this is the forward. Lights pretty good. And this is our direct. As you can see that the drum goes up and down. You got to cover one of these holes, you know, to apply it. And this is intermediate, but I don't have no clutches here. I mean, you're gonna see the piston go up a little bit. And I don't want to go too far to rip the piston, so that's gonna stay like that. All right. So everything air checked good. Let's go ahead and take this off from here. Nice, good seal. That's what you want. Reassemble this like it was. All right, those pieces are ready to go back in. We have our case bushing, a case bearing. This is already assembled, ready to go back in. This goes in the inside the barrel of the case. So these pieces are ready. Now let's get our pump over here. I mean, as you can see, there's not a whole lot to this unit. Diagnosing it, sometimes you may become a little bit of a hassle. Sometimes you get new solenoids and sometimes they don't work. Okay. So this one has a steel valve in it, and it's not an oversized. The Transgo is not an oversized valve, but the Sonics is. So all we need is just the bushing. But I'm gonna get this valve out so you guys can see it. And it's stuck. It's really stuck. The reason he got stuck is because all that metal contamination from that pump. All right. So this is the pressure regulator valve that comes on the Transgo shift kit. Sometimes the aluminum valves, the anodization starts to flake off, and that does create a lot of issues. So I'm going to put this back in there. So I'm not going to use that, but I do need the spring, the Transgo spring, and this is our Transgo factory size, pressure relief little valve. And this is an oversized that I got off a shift kit. So basically I didn't need to get the whole shift kit. Or basically we're not installing the whole shift kit here, out of a box. We're just going to transfer it from one unit to the other. All right, so let's go ahead and take this off. And you're going to see right away that this is oversized. You got some assembly lube there just to hold it. Remember, this is a Sonics part. It comes with its own spring. And this is the one that came out of the other pump. And you can see that it's undersized. And this is the correct one. You can see right away that it's the right size for this hole. I'm gonna grab it with some pliers. Now what I need to do is get the little check ball and the little spring and put it in here. Little orange little spring with the little check ball. And what this does, if you have a problem with your pressure control solenoid, it eliminates or prevents parts breakage. Now, how am I going to do this? Use the little screwdriver, mini screwdriver, and get this in there. Now, for some reason, the Transgo spring looks a little bit way too short, but that's what it comes with on the shift kit, so that's what we're going to put in. That's what it came with, in other words, and that's what it's going to leave with. And since this little clip was already bent, it's kind of hard to, there we go, to get it on the hole with two pieces. And you just bend it like that, and it just holds the spring. And there's the check ball in there. I'm not sure if you can see it, but if you have an excess pressure, excess the solenoid boost pressure, because the solenoid is the one that takes care of that. If it's stuck in high line pressure, it's going to bleed off of here. Let's go ahead and install this here. It doesn't take much. Where's the... Okay, this is the clip that came out of that other one. And for some reason, it seems to me that it's too small. But hey, that's what came out of it. And this is the one that came out of the other one. So I'm going to use this here because they want this core back so that valve won't come out. And we'll keep these for another one. All right. This valve right here is the valve that takes another sonic spring. I mean Transgo spring. I remember there's a blue one and a yellow one. So let's see what's in here. Got a little bolt for it. And this one depends on the size of the tip. I may have some instructions for a 5R110, but there's two springs depending on the size of this valve. But being that they're both the same year, supposedly, I'm going to go ahead and just transfer the spring from that to here. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to take the valve off of this one off and just make sure that the tip is the same size. If it's not the same size, no, it's not the same size. See that? It's not the same size. So with that being said, I'm just gonna leave the original factory spring that came here. Hopefully they upgraded it with maybe a sonic spring or something and return this over here. We don't want to mismatch parts, and I'm glad it did that. I mean, you have to pay attention to what you're doing, but at least the pressure relief from that is going to be here, and that's going to prevent, you know, parts breakage down the road. So now for some reason plate didn't feel too good. All right. This is a stiffer spring. All right. And I mean, this little bolt right here, I think it comes on the 4L60 Transgo kits or something. I can't remember. I got a bunch of those little bolts. And I mean, those are good to take the plugs out. Here we have our thermostatic valve, or the cooler bypass valve. And here we have our torque converter clutch valve. And we have to be careful in the position of this retainer. If you put it here, you're going to plug the holes, and you're not going to have any, you're going to have problems with lockup, in other words, with the torque converter clutch. All right, so that's all we're going to be able to do with that. Now, let's go ahead and assemble the pump. I'm going to need this little stand. Let me get my little band to align it. All right, we're gonna look for the position that this thing goes. Right here, and right here. Where you at? Let's see. Yep. Yeah, it's like this. Right here. All right, we're gonna get some pump bolts. Now I have the other pump bolts over there from the other pump, and they are the same length. Sometimes you will see some pump bolts that are a little bit shorter, because when they machine these pieces, they take a certain amount off. Okay. It basically came with all the pump bolts, and those 3 bolts over there, we're gonna have to now what I do here on pump alignment, I use 2 extension housing bolts just to make sure that our wear plate is lined up. And I'm having an issue here on this bolt, but there we go. Just kind of center our bolts there. Now you're gonna use something like this or equivalent. And line it up. You want the wear plate and the 2 halves to be centered, and that'll be easier to install it in the case. And you got to make sure that you cover both sides. All right, let me get a screwdriver here. Let's see. All right. Now I can snug it a little more. We're going to remove 3 bolts to install our return spring, and we're going to torque these at 23 foot-pounds. All right. make sure that they're all tight. I'm going to have to take 3 bolts off, like I mentioned. All right. Now we'll take this off. Now that I'm thinking, I mean, I should have just got the whole shift kit for this thing, just because of that one spring that was different. There's not a whole lot in that shift kit, just that pressure relief valve, and on the solenoid body, it takes a little plug, you know, where a dummy pressure switch goes. The 2003 models have pressure switches in them, but later they decide to get rid of them. All right, so we're gonna see in which position this thing goes. Right there, no, right here. So we're gonna remove those 3 bolts and retorque it. That's 1, 2, and 3. All right, let's go ahead and torque them. All right, there we go. Now we get our pump O-ring. Let's get our pump washer. What do I do with it? There we go. Pump washer. All right, now let's go ahead and install our new sealing rings. Paying attention to the cut. What I mean by the cut is this cut right here. That way the sealing ring is cut. Make sure that it matches correctly. Install this bearing here. Now what I'm going to do, I haven't done it yet. I'm just going to check my bushings for fitment. There we go. It's good. It goes through. Flip it over. Our torque converter clutch sealing ring. And then we have 2 leftover sealing rings that go on the case. They seal right here the lubrication circuit for the output shaft. The cooler line, rear cooler line fluid comes in the return, and it lubricates, you know, the whole rear section. So everything that's coming back from the cooler lubricates the rear part of the transmission, and you have front lubrication through the pump itself. You know, that lubricates everything in the front, like the front planetary gear, you know, this drum right here. And the rear gets lubricated through this lube holes that you see here. 1, 2, 3, and we have a cup plug here with an orifice, and this gets trapped, you know, in there, and it lubes everything inside. So the fluid that comes back from the cooler, that's why it's very important to on every single rebuild of a 5R110, it has an external cooler on it. On the early models, it looks like a little piece of toilet paper. And then on the late models, it's a canister that's bolted underneath the bell housing. All right. Let's go ahead and lubricate this. This is ready to go. This is ready to be dropped in the case. All right, well, I'm gonna put the case right here in front of me and point down and show you how we're gonna go by reinstalling everything inside the barrel of the case. And like I mentioned, we're gonna stop, going all the way to the pump. And part 3, we'll talk about the solenoids, and we'll look at them on the comments. I mean, I hope that you give good comments on that. But I'm trying to make it to where you ask some questions, and I mean, I'll probably just answer them on the comment section. We're gonna test this with vacuum, with my vacuum pump and the vacuum manifold from Sonex, because if it's cracked somewhere, it creates pump cavitation, and you're sucking fluid, and then all of a sudden you suck air and then fluid back on, and boom, it shatters the rotor. I mean, that's one thing that probably happened with this unit. Another thing is that the compiler on the converter, I mean, it might have had a lot of paint on it, and it did not sit well in the crankshaft, or maybe a worn crankshaft on the engine, slopping back and forth. Electrolysis is one thing I used to see a lot in the CD4Es, but you will see it on the bushings as well. I mean, you will see they get kind of blue, where the electricity will go through it, and that's a bad ground. And I mean, a bad ground will wear transmission parts. So a good clean ground, or maybe adding a ground from the engine block to the battery, directly, that would be a better choice, a better option. Try to eliminate, a lot of probable causes that would cause what we saw here on part 1 of the video. All right, guys, I'm going to pause it right here, and then I'm going to position you where we're going to put that in the rear of the case, and then I'm going to flip the case over, and we're going to start assembling everything in it. Okay, so remember the 2 sealing rings? They go here in this section right here. I'm not sure if you can see it from there, but I'm going to put some assembly lube right there, the green goo. And we are going to make sure that they get pasted there. And remember the openings as well. You want to make sure that they are installed correctly. So where I put my assembly lube, that's exactly where my openings are going to be at. All right. So that's one. Let's get the other one. All right, that's the second one. And our washer. You can put it in any position, it don't matter. I mean, as long as it sits correctly. Now we're gonna get our extension housing gasket, which is this, and I'm gonna paste this on the housing itself. All right, let's see, like that, paste it like that. And then lower it down. That's it. On some units, one of the bolts has a little stud on it. This one don't have one. And these are torqued at 35 pounds. All right, let's see. 35 pounds. All right, let's go ahead and set up our torque wrench for 35 pounds. 24, 25. 26. Hondas are 33. I mean, you could do 33 on this, but 35 to me is too much, but that's what he calls for. Sometimes he feels like the thread is going to give sometimes. All right, 35. Let's go ahead and there we go. This is kind of tricky. Let's go ahead and do this one. Come here, socket. All right, come on this side. And I believe that's it. It's all of them. Yep. That's all of them. All right. I'm going to put you on pause. We're going to flip this thing over and start assembling everything inside the barrel of the case. All right, 5R110 TorqueShift. Let's go ahead and knock this one out. All right. Output shaft to ring gear or rear hub bearing. Rear ring gear and then a bearing. Let's drop the rear planet. The rear planet. There we go. Now we're going to install the low reverse frictions. The frictions are still called the same as the 4R100. I mean, low reverse, direct, intermediate, overdrive brake, coast clutch. So these are the low reverse, and as you see, basically this transmission takes molded pistons, so really there's not a lot of lip seals to change. So when you do one of these, you replace everything. You replace all the pistons on this unit. All right, let's see. Wookie. Drop this down, and we got to make sure that it engages the planet, and he likes to go sideways. As you remember on the teardown, he was a little bit getting cocked sideways, that he was not coming out. Now let's move this right here, planet a little bit. Now I got you over here, and I got the light over here, where the light is right on top of here. I cannot get my head in there, but usually just by wiggling it, it should fall down just like it did. And the opening, you always want to put it right here. The opening on the snap ring, the factory opening on the snap ring came up here as well. So you want to put the opening on the snap ring at the 12 o'clock position. I got the camera tripod at the 12 o'clock position over here. So this is the 12 o'clock position. I know it went a little bit to the right here at the going to 1 o'clock, but that's no big deal as long as the opening is to the top. Now, the fun part. The only thing is that I don't remember where it is. What I do with it. Let me see. I think it's over here on this other box. No. Right here. This is a clothes hanger that I got with 2 hooks. I use this on my AXODs, AX Friends, 5R110s. It's just a coat hanger with 2 little hooks. And this is what I'm going to use to lower this section. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to lubricate my output shaft, which I should have done before I install it here. So I want the whole assembly to fall, or not to fall, but to slide in and not have any issues. All right, let's see. And it's a little heavy, so gotta keep tension on it. Like magic, man. That's it. Special tool that you probably have hundreds in your house. All right. That's going to go there. Now we're going to drop our intermediate frictions. Intermediate frictions, if you remember, the pressure plate goes down and you have these 3 big tabs, which on this unit is not that important, but on the ones that have a PTO, one of them has a notch, and the notch has to clear, up in the front. So intermediate, the pressure plate goes first because the piston for the intermediate, it's on the center support itself. All right, now let's go ahead and lube this thing up. All right, that'll make our center support to fall in easier. And you have a cutout right here for the speed sensor. And we're going to tap this lightly. As you remember that we had trouble getting it out. Now there's a little bit of issue going back in with it. It stopped right there, and I should have just sanded where the snap rings went. I think that's part of our issue. Or snap ring grooves. She stops right there. We're all the way down. Yep, we're all the way down. Now we got to rotate it to where the hole is, and we got to make sure that our bolt holes are lined up here. It has 2 bolts. Remember on the teardown. Line it up. Now we're going to put our taper snap ring in there. And we got to make sure that it's going to clear the hole there. We don't want a metallic piece, close to that sensor. There we go. Now we're gonna tap it. Just to get it a little bit clear. It's not gonna happen, nothing's gonna happen there because it's not going across it. Like on the old KMs, you know, you would have that issue that if you misposition the snap ring, the pulse generators will not work. And this one just sits there. Now our coast clutch drum with the overdrive assembly. Overdrive brake. And you got to remember that the piston, it's on the pump. So you put your pressure plate first, and then your frictions and steels. All right. Now we're gonna install our input shaft because that's gonna help us guide in our pump. Let's get our pump gasket. Our pump gasket. All right, backwards. There we go, pump gasket. Lined up in all of our holes. I'm going to get a thin screwdriver. A thin long screwdriver to help me guide this thing on down there. So I'm going to use this bolt hole. Be very careful. And then just push it down. Oh, I can't reach. Too short. Looks like we're all the way down. Seems like. Let me get my, sometimes the pump O-ring, there we go. Now we're seated. Sometimes the pump O-ring going down that little edge, usually it just slides all the way down, but since you have that wear plate in the center, sometimes it's a little bit tricky to get it in. I'm going to put you on pause because I have to change these washers. So I'm going to put you on pause and then we're going to torque the pump. And we're going to end it here. All right. Already got the bolts already here with the new washers. You see here, the new washers. Now I'm going to go ahead and drive them down. And these are going to go 20 foot-pounds. So we throttle them down, you know, not tighten it up. The 12 volt, it doesn't have a lot of torque anyway, so. And we're gonna use or torque range, and let's go ahead and set it up at 20 foot-pounds. Come on, come on. If I keep the button pressed, it just shuts down. So I gotta do this patiently. So it's 23 foot-pounds on the internal bolts and 20 foot-pounds on the pump to case bolts. And we're getting there. 19 and a half. 20. All right, here we go. Uh-oh. All right, let's just recheck. These little washers, you just got to make sure that you do it, you recheck, because when they compress, and we're compressing a gasket as well, so just make sure that you go back through them. See, this one still turned just a little bit, just a hair. You use the old washers, or if I were to reuse the same pump gasket, it would have been compressed already. There we go. All right. Well, that's it for today's. We already have everything assembled inside the barrel of the case. Once I get my solenoid in, we're gonna talk about the solenoid body, you know, what solenoid is which, and just remember to subscribe, like it, and subscribe. I mean, I have the camera upside down. I hope it's like it this way. I don't know, but anyways, like it and subscribe. All right, part 3's coming. Thanks for watching.